When we talk of democracy, we mean true representation, and the parliament is the place. And therefore, the people must be informed. A program that brings to you expert clarifications and teachings of parliamentary concepts and procedures. Welcome to this program.
Thank you very much.
On Parliamentary Guide, we'll teach, we explain, we clarify parliamentary concepts and terms. I'm glad to have you join us on another exciting edition of the program, The Parliamentary Guide. I am Ignatius Sonko. Well, one of the beauties of democracy is the existence of parliament. And parliament is the house of the citizens. But one thing about parliament is that some people find it very hard to understand the workings of parliament. And that is why the NTA Parliament established this program, The Parliamentary Guide. Well, in today's edition, we'll be taking a look at the ECOWAS Parliament, one of its strategic committees, the Committee on Political Affairs. And then today we have, as our guide on this edition of the program, a man who has spent most of his political career in the parliament, a former member of the House of Representatives in Liberia, and presently the senator representing Bomi County in Liberia, Senator Edwin Snowe. Thank you for joining us at the program.
Thank you very much, Ignatius. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much. On Parliamentary Guide, we'll teach, we explain, we clarify parliamentary concepts and terms. Now, you are recently elected as a senator. I don't think something much more new is coming to you because you've spent well over 14 years in the parliament and now as a senator. So I think your country should be benefiting from your wealth of knowledge as well as, and now to the ECOWAS, African region, should be benefiting as well. Now tell us, how did you feel the very first day you had nominated you as the chairman of such a strategic committee, political affairs?
Thank you very much for this interview. First, like you rightly said, I served my country in the House of Representatives for 15 years as member of the House of Representatives. I first served as Speaker of the House of Representatives. Then after I lost the majority, I became member of numerous committees to include the committees on Foreign Affairs, the Committee on Rules, Order and Administration, and other committees in the House. And 15 years later, I've been elected as a senator of Bomi County. Bomi County happens to be one of the counties in the western region of Liberia. And I'm so pleased that the citizens of Bomi County would have elected me as a senator. I just began a new term of 9 years in the Liberian Senate. And I'm very pleased that I can serve Liberia and contribute to my country. Now, coming to the ECOWAS Parliament, I chair the Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security, and the African Peer Review Mechanism. This prestigious committee of the ECOWAS Parliament comes with a huge responsibility. This committee deals with international organizations, beginning with the African Union, the United Nations, the European Parliament, or other parliaments around the world. We deal with non-governmental agencies. We deal with interdepartmental relations with the ECOWAS Parliament in and out of the ECOWAS system. We deal with smuggling of arms, small arms, proliferation of small arms in our region, corruption, drug trafficking, mediation, peace and security, election observation. It's just a lot. It comes with a lot of responsibility. So when I was asked and nominated by the Honorable Speaker, His Excellency Sidi Mohamed Tunis, to serve the ECOWAS Parliament as chairman of such a prestigious committee, I took it in strides. I took it as a major responsibility, not just for me as a person, but first to my country, Liberia, that I will be representing the flag of Liberia at the regional parliament. And then, of course, in the region, that I can serve ECOWAS. You know, ECOWAS played a very important role in the country I come from, Liberia. We had many years of civil crisis, and it was Nigerian soldiers who first landed on our soil, who put the boots on the soil of Liberia to give us the peace that we enjoy today. So that when we come to this parliament and serve ECOWAS through this parliament, I feel that I'm giving back to my community what my community has given me. We wouldn't have had peace in Liberia today if it had not been ECOWAS, if it had not been ECOMOG, led by Nigeria. So Again, this prestigious committee comes with a lot of responsibility, but I'm very humble about it. I'm very pleased about it. It's given me a lot of, established a lot of relationships for me. I've been able to meet at least all of the African leaders. I've been able to interact with all of the African states, West African states, and it means a whole lot for me.
Okay, that's good. Now, you see, there's one more comment you made that is very significant. You've given reference to the fact that ECOWAS was quite significant and instrumental to the liberation of Liberia. There have been some critics who have seen regional parliaments like ECOWAS as, in quotes, as just a toothless bulldog. They just make resolutions and policies without it having impact or effects on national governments. Now, how, in as much as you've already said that of Liberia, how will you correct that impression?
Well, it's wrong, and sometimes the prophet is never respected in his own home. And sometimes when you don't feel the pinch, you don't understand the situation. ECOWAS has done a lot in West Africa, a lot. As I speak to you today, for example, we have ECOWAS troops in the Gambia. As you know, after the election of Yahya Jammeh, when he was defeated by Adama Barrow, he decided that he wasn't going to turn over power. It was ECOWAS who led the mission there. It was headed by the special team. Presidential task force was headed by President Buhari, co-chaired by Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia, former President also John Mahama of Ghana. They all flew to the Gambia and then had to get ECOWAS troops on the ground. And today we still have ECOWAS troops on the ground sustaining the peace in the Gambia. Let's look at Guinea-Bissau. We have ECOWAS troops in Guinea-Bissau today that's sustaining the peace in Guinea-Bissau. We have political crisis in Guinea-Bissau. There was a threat of war, and ECOWAS had to go in there, deploy a troop there, and today we still have presence there. We've had political situations all over this region. Burkina Faso, we've had political problems there. We've had terroristic attacks in Burkina Faso. The head of states of ECOWAS met in Burkina Faso sometimes last year and pledged $1 billion to fight terroristic attacks and the proliferation of small arms in our region. That was through ECOWAS. The elections in Guinea, the elections in the Côte d'Ivoire, where ECOWAS have to move in. Yes, there are some countries that we still think we have problems with that we need to work on, especially those countries now that are adopting a new policy to change their constitution. And then when the constitution is changed, then they decide that it's a new republic so they can go for a third term. That's a major debate that's going to come on the floor of the ECOWAS Parliament. We need to discourage that. We need to ensure that presidents who will change their constitution in the middle of the term would not benefit from those changes or benefit from the actions of the changing of the constitution. So it's a major problem that ECOWAS now will have to debate. The issue in the Mali, 5 months ago, Mali had a coup d'etat, military takeover. ECOWAS imposed sanctions on Mali. And ECOWAS, when the Mali came with the junta leader to head the country, ECOWAS said, no, we will not allow a military leader to sit amongst the peers as a member of the authority of head of states and government. So Mali had to now go and get a retired general who was former Minister of Defense as a civilian to head the transition. They had to get a former foreign minister who's a civilian to serve as prime minister. And then we've given it 18 months. I just from Mali 2 days ago, we had a meeting with the transitional president, the transitional speaker, the vice president, all of the authorities. They also met with the political parties. With Mali have 219 political parties. We had to meet with the political parties. We met with the civil society organization. All of those happen under the auspices of ECOWAS. So when I hear people think that ECOWAS is a toothless bulldog, nothing is happening, I respectfully disagree. But sometimes if you don't understand or you're not benefiting, your country has not gone through crisis to benefit from ECOWAS. You will, even Nigerian election. I was here for the Nigerian election. I headed the ECOWAS parliamentary mission for the Nigerian election.
There's the last general election.
The last general election between President Buhari and Atiku. Okay. And I know what happened here. I know the role ECOWAS played here. I remember the night the election was postponed, the tension that came in the country, the statement ECOWAS had to issue. So, I mean, we were on boats going across the entire region and to make sure the ballot papers and other things get there. So ECOWAS have played an extremely important role in this region. And I just want to call on citizens of West Africa to appreciate the role ECOWAS has played and continue to play. Are there more things we could do to sustain the peace, to build up the public confidence? Yes. Should we be a little more tough on those presidents that have sustained themselves in power at the detriment of our citizens? Yes. Should we do something about presidents that are changing the constitution so that they can go for a third term? Yes. Have we done something to sustain regional peace? I also say yes.
Now, as Senator Snowe, like you rightly said, in as much as we good number of people know that, yes, ECOWAS have done quite enough, don't you think it's a major challenge and a big minus from national governments who sometimes they don't deliver what they should? Poor infrastructure, poverty, poor education attainment. That is one of the reasons why you see sometimes some citizens don't even believe, don't see anything good in the national government, and it transcends to whatever regional body they feel that is trying to impact on them. Or don't you think it's something like that that could lead to some of this? Not that they are not even seeing what ECOWAS are doing, but don't you think poor democratic management by some West African countries is responsible for that?
Well, I agree with you. Like you said in your intro, the parliament is the seat of the citizens. The citizenry depend on their state actors through the parliament to debate the issues and represent their interests. And when those interests are not being represented by the parliamentarians, the citizens get disenfranchised, they get disgruntled, and then they turn the blame on the parliamentarians. So the same thing happened to national government, where people expect the government to do more. But let's understand too, some of the governments are struggling just based on taxpayers' money or donor support. Now, you don't have all the countries in West Africa that have so much oil like Nigeria. You don't have some of the countries that have a big commercial commerce like other countries in the region like Senegal, like Cote d'Ivoire and others. So you have countries that are struggling. My own country, Liberia, most of our development programs come from the collection of taxes. Donor support, yes, is coming in, but very small. The last 4 years when America, under the administration of former President Donald Trump, America did not have a lot of global approaches. So not much came from America to the developing world. And things got difficult for most small countries. And because of that, the citizens sometimes, they may not understand the difficulties that the government is faced with, and they are right, because you expect more from your government. But some governments today, they are working with roads connectivities, they are doing electrification, they're doing pipe-borne water for the citizens, based on the meager support that they're receiving from taxpayers and the little that comes from the international community. So yes, much is expected, and we understand when the citizens are not happy, but it's also expected that the government will use their information mechanism to explain to the citizens, and that the citizens will not see the government as being wasteful or lavishing the taxpayers' money, but instead investing in those things that will benefit the citizens. Education, healthcare delivery, electrification, road connectivity. Those are basic things that any government should do for its people. If you cannot afford it based on your limited resources, your citizens must see that you are making all efforts. And then, of course, ECOWAS is there also to help you with all our technical support.
Very important at this point in time that we should try to look at. You see, the ECOWAS Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security and Peer Review Mechanism is the engine room of this regional parliament. And then, are you not bothered that some countries, some heads of states are not really active in the ECOWAS affairs? And how does that leave you with receptibility from these governments when there's need for you to move in for any action?
Well, I will disagree with you respectfully. All of the head of states are quite very involved with the workings of ECOWAS. The head of states have a forum called the Authority of Head of States in Government. And all of the head of states have been very active over the years. I must admit that some countries may be delinquent in community levies because you have community levies.
Yes.
So some of them have been delinquent in the collection of community levies.
Yes.
Now there are some factors. For example, in the last summit of head of state and council of ministers, Nigeria said moving forward they will pay the community levy in Naira. So if you're paying your community levy in Naira, and Nigeria bears the biggest responsibility in our region, Nigeria is actually the hub of the survival of ECOWAS. So if Nigeria is paying that in Naira, and we have a mission maybe in Ghana, We have to now go and get the naira, change the naira to dollar, get to Ghana, change the dollar to cedis to be able to spend. Or you go to a francophone country, you take the naira, change it to CFA or to dollar, then to, so there are pressure on our region, and you have to understand and appreciate what some of the countries go through. So the issue of community levy, like Guinea, like Liberia, you collect taxes in Liberian dollars. Some of the taxes are collected in US dollars, of course, but if you collect something in Liberian dollars, you now have to go and look for US dollars to remit to ECOWAS, and sometimes it's slow in those processes, but it's not lack of commitment. I can vouch for leaders of West Africa.
Of the last meetings in South Africa, then it was a particular issue, this lack of financial commitment by some countries. And of course, when you're talking of these countries, you cannot isolate them from the heads of state of such governments. And I know that with no matter the level of commitment, physical and spiritual, psychological commitment, without financial commitment, I think it's a very big hitch. So that was the area I was going to. That was why I said, with some countries not being to be financially up to date, does it not affect your mandate?
It does, and that's why we encourage members of parliament to work with their respective governments to ensure that the issue of community levy is prioritized in the respective countries, because community levy is not something that's been imposed on the country by ECOWAS. Community levy is leverage that you receive, monies you receive on behalf of ECOWAS through your commerce. So someone's importing something into your country from outside ECOWAS region, they pay 4%. That 4% belongs to ECOWAS. So you own a custodian of that money to remit to ECOWAS. Now, some countries, because of their own financial difficulties, they go into that money and use it instead of sending it directly to ECOWAS or immediately to ECOWAS, and then you go into deficit. Some countries receive the money in their local currency and then now have to go and get the US dollars from the central banks to be able to transmit to ECOWAS. So there are different factors, but the issue of commitment, is firm in the region, and yet we continue to encourage our head of states and government to take the issue of community levy very seriously. The president of the ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Jean-Claude Cassibrour, has been very, very efficient, very effective in moving around. Our team headed by the vice president of the ECOWAS Commission, Madam Finda Kroma, has been heading high-power missions around West Africa to encourage the different head of states to work with the finance ministers and the central bank governors to ensure that monies due to ECOWAS come to ECOWAS so that ECOWAS will be able to do its work. And I think there are challenges, but I think there are progress also.
Yes, okay. Well, at this point in time, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with our analysis and discussions. When intellectuals teach, they do that through parliamentary guide.
Executive communication, that is communication coming from the executive, requiring action by the legislature.
Interparliamentary Union is a world body. It brings in all the parliaments all over the world. And all these parliaments have powers.
It's commendable for NTA to initiate this program.
Thank you for still being with us. It is the Parliamentary Guide, a program that brings to you expert analysis and clarifications of parliamentary concepts and terms. Well, we've been on this issue of ECOWAS Parliament, and then our guide on this edition has been the chairman, ECOWAS Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security and Peer Review Mechanism, Senator Edwin Snowe. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you very much.
Now, we know this committee, you cannot work alone. Or are you working alone? If you're not working alone, tell us what is the composition of your committee and what is the structure like?
The ECOWAS Parliament has a membership of 115 members. The membership depends on the population of the country. The minimum being 5 members, and the maximum, which is Nigeria with a huge population, 35 members. We have 15 committees in the ECOWAS Parliament. So each committee has a maximum of 10 members on the committee. And we also look for gender equity, linguistic concerns I address in the formation of the committees. So like the Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security, and the African Peer Review Mechanism, we have 10 members. I chair that committee from Liberia. My vice chair comes from Benin, vice chair of the committee. The first rapporteur of my committee comes from Ghana. The second rapporteur comes from Niger. And then we have members from Cape Verde, we have members from Cote d'Ivoire and others. Nigeria, of course. As you know, Nigeria plays a very important role in regional peace and security. To the extent we have 2 Nigerians on that committee, very influential, that have been working along with us and working along with the Nigerian government so that we can help to see. That's why we're even influential in working with members of the ECOWAS Parliament through our national governments to support Nigeria's bid at the African Union to chair the Committee on Political Affairs, Peace and Security at the African Union. So the committee is very forceful, it's a very strong committee, and the Speaker and the Bureau of the ECOWAS Parliament has given the committee the necessary muscles to be able to pull and do its work. So we've been doing very well. We've been able to, last year we had 6 elections in West Africa. We had elections in Togo, we had election in Ghana, we had election in Burkina Faso, we had election in Niger, we had election in Guinea-Conakry, in Cote d'Ivoire. So we had 6 elections last year in West Africa. All of those elections were monitored by the ECOWAS Parliament. We work along with the ECOWAS Commission to validate the process. So the Parliament has been very, very strong, working through the Committee on Political Affairs, Peace and Security, and the African Peer Review Mechanism. We also have a very close relationship with the South African Parliament. We work with other countries within Africa. Like you said, one of the responsibilities of this committee is just not in ECOWAS, it's within the entire continent. So we have relationship with all parliamentary bodies in the different governments and parliaments in the region.
No, okay, that's good. Now, I know that one of the mandates of your committee is to resolve conflicts where they arise. But are there plans to prevent these conflicts before they arise?
Definitely. So
what is your committee planning towards that?
Definitely. We also prevent, we do more on conflict prevention than on mediation or resolution. For example, in Sierra Leone, a few years ago, Sierra Leone had an election. And the parliament, the opposition had majority in the parliament. And there was a problem between the ruling party and the opposition. And the opposition refused to go to parliament, thereby denying the quorum for the president of Sierra Leone to address the parliament. We then had to move in there ahead of a mission to Sierra Leone, where we were able to prevent a major embarrassment, because the president could not address the parliament on the day set aside by the constitution. That would have been a constitutional concern or crisis. So we had to move in there, met with the former president of Sierra Leone, met with the leadership of the opposition, and after a week or so, we were able to resolve the matter so that they could go back to work. What we've also been able to do over the years is that those areas that had not, like maybe Mali, were a bit slow in Mali. The issue of Mali grew up from a parliamentary conflict. And by the time we sent a mission in there, our mission was already in Mali when the coup took place in Mali. So we were a little bit slow, but we've been able to prevent other crises around the region. In the Gambia, we have an active presence there. We're monitoring now closely the situation in Senegal. As a matter of fact, the speaker and I are on our way to Senegal. We have, they have some political situation in Senegal. They have restrictions, travel restrictions, so we could not go. But we are closely monitoring the situation in Senegal to see how best we can immediately send a team in Senegal to address the situation. In Liberia just had a senatorial election, midterm senatorial election, which I benefited from. ECOWAS was very instrumental. ECOWAS sent a technical team to Liberia to clean up the voters' roll. They worked very closely with the Elections Commission and were able to validate the process. I could not be part of that mission because I'm from Liberia, but ECOWAS was very instrumental in ensuring that the election was free, fair, and transparent and credible, which took place successfully. And we've been able to do a lot in the region, and we'll continue to do a lot.
Okay. Now that's interesting, because most times it's cheaper to prevent crisis than to manage it or resolve it. Yes. Now, are you not bothered with the rate and level of infiltration of insurgents within West African sub-regions? You can hardly mention a state, a country, without having some of these incidents. And I think this falls within the purview of your committee to address this issue. Are we expecting something new, or you're still going to manage the same process put in place by your predecessor?
We're not naive to believe that nothing could pop up and, happen new. But the necessary security apparatus have been doing extremely well. I know that Nigeria, for example, has been extremely stretched with the Boko Harams and other extremist groups that have been entering the school system, adopting our young children. We condemn that, and we gave strong support to the government of Nigeria for whatever they have done so far to combat those terroristic attacks. But we also look at sometimes the roots of the problem. Don't forget, since the Arab Spring, we've been having more and more problems. The issue with Gaddafi, the problems in Libya, where a lot of the rebels came into the Sahel, coming through Niger and Mali and other countries, and there have been some problems. A few years ago, there was attacks in Cote d'Ivoire. We've been able to resolve that. There have been constant attacks in Burkina Faso. So it's been alarming. It's not on a very high level right now, except recently when the students again were adopted in Nigeria. But we are also not sleeping or going with our pants down, not realizing that those could just pop up at any time, surprisingly, to our country. So we're very concerned about that. And that's why earlier I told you that the head of states of West Africa met in Burkina Faso and agreed to generate or to contribute $1 billion to combat the terroristic attack and the proliferation of small arms in our region.
Now you know that there's no way the West African region can comprehensively address this issue without cooperation from sister states, sister regions. Are you comfortable with the relationship between ECOWAS Parliament, ECOWAS Commission, and East Africa and the rest of them, these other regions, these other blocks? Are you comfortable with the relationship so far?
The last few reports that have come out have given ECOWAS Commission, ECOWAS community, a very high grade on performance, the governance structure, the different treaties we've been able to sign in working with the different governments. So satisfied may not be the word, but I see the glass as being half full and not half empty. A lot is still desired to be done, a lot is still desired to achieve, but I think ECOWAS has been doing well so far with the limited resources and the challenges that we face in our respective countries.
Okay. Now, how do you manage this Herculean task of ECOWAS and everyday activities from left, right, and center, and your national assignment back in Liberia?
That's a good question. That's a difficult one. But again, Liberia remains grateful to the ECOWAS community because when our house was on fire, citizens of West Africa left their families, left the comfort of their homes to go into Liberia and solve the problems there. So today that we have to leave our comfort to come outside to help, we remain grateful to ECOWAS. But again, it takes a lot. For example, I was elected in December to the Senate. My election was contested by the ruling party. I ran as an independent candidate, so I went against the ruling party. The ruling party contested my elections. The legal process took me like 2 months. And then finally, that was over, and I got inducted in the Senate. And I attended just one session, because we go to Senate session on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I attended one session, and that Thursday after session, I had to run to the airport to catch a flight to get on this mission. So I've already missed 4 sessions there into a new job. It's a big sacrifice that we'll have to make. When we come on these missions, it's not about what you can get, it's not about what you can. For example, some people think sometimes that the per diems are a huge issue. I mean, when I come to Nigeria, I'm concerned about my security. I stay at the Transcorp. Sometimes my hotel bill at the Transcorp is even more than the per diem I receive from ECOWAS. But because of my own security, because of my own safety, I'd rather stay somewhere where security is provided. So this is a sacrifice that we make. And I must admit, fortunately for Liberia, the president of Liberia happens to be a former member of the ECOWAS Parliament. He understands the responsibility that the Parliament carry. The members of the legislature, the Speaker of the Assembly, of the House of Representatives, we both got elected together for the first time in the House 15 years ago. He understands the important role ECOWAS played. The president of the Senate, who happens to be our vice president, and then the pro tem of the Senate, they all understand the important role ECOWAS. ECOWAS, make no mistake, has a very, very positive image in Liberia, for example. The peace we enjoy today, had it not been for ECOWAS, with those Nigerian troops that went into Liberia. That's why right now, after COVID, when COVID subsides, I have a project where I want to meet with some of the governors in Nigeria, meet with the political stakeholders. You know, when the soldier boys go places, they leave trouble. So, you know, we had a civil crisis. There were peacekeepers. The soldiers were there. They left a lot of babies behind. Those babies are having babies, and you know. So I'm now heading a mission right after COVID subsides to see how we can start looking for scholarship, not money. How can we get some of these children in some good universities, some good schools, some vocational training to help them so that the reflection of our war 20 years down the road will not just be children that got impregnated by soldiers and they were abandoned and then had babies and those babies having babies, but that we can say to us that 10 years ago, 20 years ago, those soldiers came and this happened. But the political authorities in those respective countries were very generous to our country, and they brought some of the children here to get educated and go back home to contribute to national security, national growth, which is very important.
Wow, that would be very great. You know.
Yeah, I'm working on that.
Yes, I think it will, because like you said, if you don't try to put those kids in a place where they become useful to the society, they become in fact handy weapons. You see them, they litter the street and they begin to cause problems. They become willing agents to cause mayhem, and we begin to talk of problem again, insurgents. So I think, I believe by the time you meet the governors, they will definitely give you a listening ear, and then that issue will be addressed. Well, it's at this point in time that we will say thank you for being on this program, and I think Nigerians and other Africans who will be watching this program would have known and would have been glad they did, because you've actually explained a lot of things that before this time people felt they knew. Well, even me here, that's one of the things you said here that was quite enlightening. And I want to say thank you, and don't hesitate to come next time when we'll call you. Yeah, well, and like we did say, for those of us who have been watching, our guide, who is our expert and our guest here today, is a senator representing Bombay County in Liberia, Senator Edwin Snowe. He's been a member of the House of Representatives in Liberia for about 15 years before joining over to the Senate. As the chairman, ECOWAS Committee on Political Affairs, Peace, Security and African peer review mechanism, he has explained the abject importance of the ECOWAS Commission in the African region. He was clear that the peace the region is experiencing today is courtesy of the ECOWAS commitment. And don't forget, he has explained that African heads of state promised $1 billion to fight insurgents. And we know that this is one of the biggest social problems the region is having. And with that kind of contribution, I don't think there's any other less commitment from such political head of states. Well, thank you for being with us. And join us again next time for another exciting edition. I am Ignatius Nko. Bye for now. Thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you, Ignatius. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.